Thanks so much. Well, welcome everyone. So I'm privileged and very happy to have Francine with me on stage today to talk about gaming and the evolution we've been seeing in the way consumers are interacting with games. So my first questions, and we had a cue to that. It's the first time officially gaming is a category in the Cannes Lions. Why now?
I think now is really the perfect time to introduce gaming officially as a category to the Cannes Lions, because gaming is really leading pop culture these days. So everything that we see out in the world in terms of the Mario Brothers movie being the #1 at the box office, to The Last of Us on HBO. I don't know who's seen that, but many people. And I work at Riot Games, and a couple of years ago we launched Arcane, which is an animated series, and it won the Emmy. And gaming culture is really now leading pop culture. And brands are noticing because gamers, they're not what we used to think they were. It's not the teenager in his mom's basement in the dark playing games. That stereotype of gamers, that's no longer true. 90% of Gen Z, they're gamers. And of course, brands, they want to figure out how to be a part of that. And more brands are entering that space. And they're still figuring it out because it's relatively new. And now's a really good time to set that bar really high. The Cannes Lions, are a festival that celebrates creativity in support of progress and commerce and success for companies. And right now, it's the perfect time to figure out how to intersect in the really interesting and ever-evolving space of gaming.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's very, very important to remind that gamers is not a category we should target anymore. It's all about consumers spending time, entertaining themselves, playing. So you've been working in building brands. You've launched League of Legends a few years back. You've launched Valorant and Arcane, you mentioned. How are you approaching marketing as a brand?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because prior to Riot, I worked in many different brands. I had a long career in advertising, and then I worked at Netflix. But I have to say, working in gaming and marketing gaming is very different, because gamers, players, they have a very high bar for authenticity. And it's an amazing thing, and they should, because it's a very intimate medium. We really don't own our games. They do. We're the custodians of worlds that they spend many hours in. It's where they hang out with their friends. And so because of that, there's a real intimacy. So when we think about marketing, it really is a very modern version of marketing. It's not about pushing a message anymore, especially in gaming. It's really about inviting player communities in, inviting them to engage, inviting them to co-create, and then really putting them in the spotlight. And that's really a lot of how we think about marketing. As a company overall at Riot, we're very, very focused on the gamer and the player. And everything we do is in an effort to improve the player experience. And that's something that really guides us in everything we do, whether it's making the games, whether it's the esports, the esports category, or in entertainment. And so you mentioned Arcane. Arcane, when that show was launched, it was really launched as a love letter to our players. Did it go broader than our players? Absolutely. But really focusing on our core players, surprising and delighting them, and adding value to them is what we care about most.
So how could you insert brands in that experience, making sure that they get the best of the engagement they could get from your community without ruining the gamer's experience?
Well, I think you got it exactly right, which is it's a very fine line. Most importantly, we want to keep that trust that we have with our community. The minute we break that trust, we have a very vocal community. They will let us know. When they love something, they're our biggest supporters. But when we break that trust, they're also quite vocal. And so that's the most important thing, is that we continue to keep that trust. And when we bring partners in, and we have some amazing partners like MasterCard and Tiffany's and Coca-Cola. When we work on those brand partnerships, we're looking at how we can add value to the player experience and find an intersection of the goals that we have at Riot Games and the goals that our brand partners have. And the most important thing is being able to work collaboratively from the beginning to make sure that we understand strategically what we're trying to achieve and then make a creative idea that is going to pull players in.
So what are the stakeholders usually involved in that process? Are you working directly with the brands? Are you using creative agencies? Any other kind of service company?
Yeah, so our marketing team works very closely with our partners at the partner brands. If the partner brands have agencies, we work with them as well. And then in addition to that, internally, we also have stakeholders or partners. So our EPs are very involved, our executive producers of our games are very involved in the brand partnerships, as well as the leadership of those games. So it's something that we want to make sure that we have alignment very early on what we're trying to achieve, and that we're able to bring that to life in exactly the ways that will surprise and delight players. And oftentimes, the execution of these ideas are really important. So even if we have a great creative idea, the details of the execution, making sure that it's authentic to our IPs, authentic to the player experience, that it's not interruptive, these are all things that all stakeholders are aware of. Most recently, we just launched Coke co-creations with Coca-Cola. I think it was last week. And through that process, our team worked really closely with Coke's team to develop that custom flavor, to figure out how to bring it to market from a marketing perspective. And I think that's kind of the gold bar, is to be able to work really well from the beginning.
And you also have a global dimension to that. You are present in a lot of very, very different markets. Does that require for you to have local teams that are really embedded with the client local teams also?
Yes, so when we have local partners in the regions, we do have our local teams work with them. And that's one of I call it the special sauce of Riot Games, is we have a very global footprint. We are in many countries, and our teams on the ground really understand the local players and the nuances that come with being in those regions. And of course, they're the ones that are going to work most closely with partners. China is a really good example. We have many brand partnerships in China, in the China region, and our Chinese Rioters work really closely with them to figure out what the goals are that they're trying to achieve, and then how we can bring value and surprise and delight our players.
So you talk about creativity a lot, and it's very important, and your ability to create immersive universe and stay true to the players. For me, this links to talent. And Riot Game is a massive brand. How are you seeing attracting talent and retaining them and making sure that they can grow with you and your different projects?
Our internal talent? Yeah. The thing that's great about Riot is that we're a very mission-driven company, and everything that we do is in support of making it better to be a player. So naturally, there's a real pull of people who are aligned with that mission. We're really lucky in that a lot of talent who are passionate about our games, passionate about serving our player communities, they want to work at Riot. It's a lifetime dream for them. And so one of the things that we recruit for and keeps our talent is that passion for our games, for our players, and for making it better for other players. We're a company of players creating games for other players, and I think that's very unique. The deep empathy all Rioters have for our players. So in terms of talent, I think we're lucky that we're able to attract a ton of talent that want to do what we're all on a mission to do.
That's great. That's great to hear. And so this is leading for me to your role as the president of the jury. So I guess you did have a very, very busy weekend. How has it been going so far?
Yes, it's been really busy. This is the first year that the Cannes Lions has introduced the Entertainment for Gaming jury, and it's very exciting to have the opportunity to work in this category. I have an amazing jury of people from really diverse backgrounds. And so that's been really helpful in the jury room when we're debating things. We have people from agencies, creative agencies, from gaming companies, from platforms. And so everybody has a bit of a different perspective and brings with them all the experience they have in terms of creating experiences for players themselves. And it is very busy. I think some people back at the office think I'm coming to Cannes and drinking rosé, but it is 10 to 12-hour days in the jury room deliberating. We started our judging on Saturday. We were able to finalize a shortlist on Saturday, and then yesterday we went through the bronze, silver, golds, and we did a line on our Grand Prix, so that's pretty exciting. I'm very excited for tomorrow night when we'll be sharing the winners of the inaugural gaming jury.
And how are you satisfied with the level of creativity you've been seeing? Have you identified entry that are pushing the envelope, being very innovative, or all of that has been a little classic?
There's some great work. There's some really great work. I would say some of the best work really recognizes that gaming is really complex. It's not like any other medium because you have to think about the brand, you have to think about the game and the gameplay, the players, the community, the ecosystem around gaming, so the streamers and the esports, the entertainment properties. So you're thinking about how to bring all those together and what the intersection of that is. And I would say the most integrated work really takes into account all of them and then creates a role for the community. It invites the community in to participate, to co-create, and to really write the story alongside the brands. And it's not easy to do that. The thing about gaming ideas, some of the best gaming ideas we've seen is they take a long time. Gaming creative moves at a different pace because of that complexity, because all the different moving parts, especially if you're talking about integration into game, you have to get onto that list of priorities from the dev side. The devs have a long list of things that they have to do just to get the game right, and now we're thinking about integrating things. So having that patience to work on ideas that might take several years, but pay off because you'll forever be in the game. I think some historical work that we've seen is the Burger King Stevenage Challenge. Are you familiar with that one? So that idea must have taken at least 3 years.
But maybe you could remind to the audience what it was.
Yes. So Burger King, a few years ago, there was a piece of work they did called the Stevenage Challenge. It was a partnership with FIFA, but it wasn't an official partnership. What they did is they looked at all the teams in the league, and they chose one that was close to the bottom, not a very well-known league, and they sponsored that team in real life. And they knew that if they sponsored the team in real life, that it would end up in the new edition of FIFA. And of course it did. So Burger King was the sponsor of this real team, also team in FIFA. And then they engaged their community to try to put the best players onto their team. And when they shared it on social, they would give them coupons. So that's an idea that you'd have to think about years in advance to be able to get it to the execution. And another one that we've seen that's in the short list this year is FIFA 23 and Ted Lasso. And that was marketing for the new season and last season of Ted Lasso, as well as for FIFA 2023. And what was really beautiful about that execution was that it was really done for both fans of FIFA and fans of Ted Lasso. And of course, that's something that takes a while to develop as well.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from you is that it's a different kind of advertising, where we have to put creativity in the forefront, execution needs to be pristine, and the timing needs to be anticipated. So we are back into a different cycle. It's not last-minute ad spot that we insert in some pre-existing content.
I think that's exactly right. And then the other thing I'd really emphasize is the authenticity, because our players really expect a certain type of experience from their gaming experiences. And we shouldn't alter that when we're looking at brand partnerships. You don't want to be interruptive to what they've come to do. And also understanding the mindset. When players come into games, they're looking to play and be entertained and have fun. And I'd really encourage marketers to keep that in mind, because that's how you're going to add to the experience versus detracting from it.
Great. So before we turn to the audience for questions, any final word you would like to give us from your experience in so many diverse companies in entertainment, but also what you've seen for the past weekend in Cannes?
I think there are a lot of lessons for marketers in general to learn from game marketing, because games marketing is modern marketing. It's a place where we're no longer pushing out a message to an audience. We're engaging a community to build along with us. And whether you're in games or whether you're marketing toothpaste, I think everyone's trying to figure out how to build community. So the lessons from gaming are pretty broadly applicable.
All right. Thanks so much. Now I'm turning towards the audience.
Thanks. Hi. Funny story, I'm Nick. I was actually a pro player in League about 10 years ago, so thank you. I wanted to ask, given the success of Arcane and all that we've seen from it, and now Riot moving into other genres like MMOs, any news on that, by the way?
No news.
No news? Okay, well, had to
Sorry.
shoot my shot. Have you thought more about smaller or similar content in Arcane and how that might translate into your marketing and the brand of Riot in general?
So the question is, have we thought about what a smaller version of Arcane might be in terms of marketing? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. So what's really interesting is that Arcane actually was birthed from a music video that was done to promote. You're very familiar with Arcane, I can see. That was done to promote League of Legends and one of our champions, Jinx. So Get Jinxed was the video. So that was the seed. There was a ton of passion from our players about that video. And that's actually one of the big lessons at Riot is we listen to our community and we create things in response to them. So Arcane was something that was created because our players were asking for more. They were saying, we want to know more about these worlds in which these champions live. We want to know more about Jinx and the world in which she lives. And so that's pretty core to how we think about creating content, including entertainment content. So yes, every day in our marketing, we are creating, I guess what you would call like they're not mini Arcanes, but they're videos that express the lore, who give more context to the players that you play in-game. Many of our champion videos do that. They give more context, and they really bring that power fantasy to life.
Thank you. Any other question?
What in the blockchain Web3 world, gaming is getting pretty big. What is Riot doing as it relates to this, or do you have plans to engage the Web3 community in games?
That's not something that we're currently looking at, but we're definitely keeping tabs on that world at the moment.
All right. Any other question?
Here you go.
Hey, my name is KL from Canva, and earlier you were saying something about how other people can learn from the gaming marketing sort of cutting edge in terms of a community and engaging community. Can you give some examples of what's been really successful for Riot?
Of where we've successfully engaged our community?
Yeah, and just like really seeing growth from using this tactic, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So everything our communities, as you know, are very vocal, and when they see changes that are unexpected in game, that's never a great thing. But we always want to make sure that we're communicating to them in an ongoing basis. So our devs, they speak to our community all the time. We never want to be a corporation speaking to players. The way that we approach it is that we're fellow players speaking to other players. So oftentimes, we patch League every 2 weeks. And when there are big changes, we have a series called Dev Diaries, where our devs will go out and speak directly to players. They take questions, they respond on Twitter. And that's one of the ways that we're making sure that we have an ongoing relationship with the players and engaging them continuously so there aren't any surprises in the worlds that they live in.
Thank you. One final question, maybe? Or should we wrap up? Here.
So gaming industry is a very emotional one. We kind of engage very, very strongly in it. Do you analyze emotions of your players in any way?
We definitely monitor their responses in different forums and social channels, and so they're pretty clear with us on their emotions. So I would say yes. I think we try to understand player sentiment. We measure player sentiment. We try to understand what's driving sentiment up, sentiment down, and make changes accordingly.
How you do that to follow up? How you measure the emotions? You read what they write to you? Are there any other tools you use?
I don't know that there are any specific tools, but our community management team is out there in the community gauging that sentiment and making sure that the entire company has an awareness of where that sentiment tracks.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I do not think you need to worry about feedback because your designers, your artists, everyone, including yourself, incredible ambassadors for the brand and for the games that you put out. Really, really well done. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Thank you.